everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm glad you're here. Today I'm going to show you a sneak peek at the Dreammaker special. This special starts May 1st, and I'm going to show you how to make a post-it notepad cover with these papers. Okay, so this is the stamp set. It's an E-sized stamp set, so it comes with two layers of stamps. And then this is the cardstock. One side is kind of this marbleized pattern on the cardstock, and it's a heavyweight pattern or colored cardstock. And then the other side is the regular color of whatever cardstock that is. And then also there are some pattern papers. So I'm going to use this one that's kind of the marbleized rainbow colors. All right, so let's get started. The first notepad that I'm going to do is with this Lagoon marbleized cardstock. So I'm going to show you how to do this with just the cardstock. And then the second notepad that I'll show you how to make is I'll do it with the patterned papers. So you want to start out by cutting your cardstock down to 7 3/4 by 3 1/4. You can get 4 of them out of a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. And then you want to score. So first score is going to be the back of your notepad, which is at 3 3/4 inches. And then I just pull it out of my trimmer and flip it around. And then I score at 3 5/8 and 3 1/4. So you'll have 3 score lines almost in the center of this piece. Okay, so I'm just folding them down along the score lines. The 2 outside ones I fold in, and then the center one I can fold the other direction, but then you'll see me do it a little differently for the first one. You just want to kind of get the fold started. And then you want to open it back up and put it back in your trimmer, because you're going to cut some slits to create kind of a pen loop. All right, so place it back in your trimmer at 1 inch, and then you're going to drop your blade down at the first score line, and then you cut up to the other outside score line. So you're going to cut through that center score line, and then you flip your cardstock around and put it in at 1 inch and do the same thing. Drop your blade and cut. So you've got that slit cut. So the center one goes out, and then the left and right side go in on those folds. All right, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. And that's kind of the placement of your notepad. So that outside folded piece creates kind of a loop so that you can place your pen. So I found these cute little pens on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description below. They fit perfectly. They're about 3 inches tall. Okay, so you want to put some adhesive just on those 2 sections on the base so that they stay put and the shape of your notepad cover keeps its shape. Okay, so that's the basic structure of your notepad cover, and then you can glue your notepad inside. These are your basic 3 by 3 3M sticky notes, and I'll put a link. I got a box of 24 on Amazon. They come in 4 different colors. Okay, so I'm just gluing that inside. All right, so now the fun part, let's decorate it. Okay, so I'm going to cut some black cardstock, and I started out at 3 by 3, but I felt like it was covering up too much of that marble paper, so I trimmed that down to 2 3/4 square, and then I'm going to trim another piece of the marble paper down just 1/8 of an inch smaller, so I have just a smidge of black around the edges. Okay, and then I'm going to take another piece, or that same piece of marble paper, and I'm going to stamp on it. Okay, so I've got some scratch paper, and I've flipped my Versamat over for stamping, And the scratch paper, I'm going to be stamping over the edges here. So I'm using these Dreammaker stamps, and this first one is just a text stamp. And I'm doing tone on tone stamping. So the marble paper is Lagoon, and I'm using Lagoon ink. And then I've got some more of these script stamps and some splatter stamps and a big paint splotch. And I'm just kind of random stamping. And when you do this, think about the stamping around the edges and what's going to be seen, because I'm going to stamp some, or I'm going to have an image in the center of this square. Okay, so now I'm taking some white daisy cardstock and cutting it at 2 by 2, and then some black cardstock to mat it with at 2 1/8 square. And I'm going to stamp on this. So I'm going to take that paint splotch or ink drop, I don't know what it is, stamp, and stamp that right in the center in Lagoon ink. And then I'm going to stamp this line drawing of a flower in black ink on top of it. So instead of having to color in your flower, you can use this paint splotch to do the coloring for you. Makes it quick and easy. Okay, now I'm going to bring my Misty in, and I'm going to stamp just a note, and this sentiment is from the April stamp of the month called Sweet Tweets. I just love the font on it. It's really pretty. So I'm going to stamp that first in black ink. So I'm setting it up in my Misty so that I can stamp it down first in black. And then I clean up the stamp, and I'm going to stamp in the same exact spot with Versamark ink so I can heat emboss. So first I'm going to tap it with some anti-static powder so that I don't get embossing powder on that wet ink. Make sure everything's dried up and got the powder on it, and then I'll stamp down in Versamark. And I'll sprinkle some black embossing powder on this. So I like to do the black on black just because then it intensifies the especially with a sentiment. Then you get it nice and dark. So we'll heat that up and melt that embossing powder. And then we're good to go. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in a corner rounder. And this corner rounder, it's ancient. It's one of the very first ones that closetomyheart. It's not a closetomyheart branded one, but it was one of the first ones that were available. And you can use whatever corner rounder you have in your stash. So I'm just rounding 2 of the corners just to give it kind of an interesting shape. So I'll glue those 2 pieces together, and then I'm going to bring in some black shimmer trim and cut off a strip at 3 1/4 inches. If you can't find the black shimmer trim, then you can use black glitter paper as well, and just use a 1/2 inch strip that's 3 1/4 inches long. And just going to layer everything up. I'm just going to keep things monochromatic with this one. These little notepads, they make great little extra add-on gifts. Or just have them everywhere you need a notepad. I've got notepads all over the place. So I'm going to add that shimmer trim right in the middle there. And then I'm going to pop my Just a Note sentiment with some foam tape. So cute. And it's handy with that little pen loop, so you've always got a pen to go with your notepad. And then for the last step, I'm going to add just a little bit of black shimmer brush right in the center of my flower. Okay, and there's the first notepad. Super cute. Okay, let's make another one. This one's going to be in brighter colors, and I'm going to use that pattern paper from Dreammaker. Again, I'm cutting this strip of paper at 7 3/4 by 3 1/4. And then I'm going to score at 3 3/4. Flip it around, score at 3 5/8 and 3 1/4. I'll fold along those score lines. And then place it back in my trimmer and cut a slit from score line to score line, placing it in my trimmer at 1 inch, and then flipping it around, placing it at 1 inch, and then cutting score line to score line. And then I'll fold my paper in so that center loop is out. And we'll glue everything down. So we'll go through this one a little bit quicker. So the Dreammaker special becomes available beginning May 1st, and it has the cardstock, the special cardstock, pattern paper, stickers, a stamp set, a stencil, and some embellishments, some black paperboard embellishments. And there are also some workshops available. There's a scrapbooking workshop, a card making workshop, and a mini book, actually like a 6x8 mini album workshop. And there's going to be some videos on the Close to My Heart Facebook page on how-tos, and you'll find cut instructions and PDFs on my website. So look for those beginning May 1st. Okay, so now after adding that notepad, glued that down, I'm going to cut some black cardstock at 2 3/4, and then I'll cut that pattern paper just a smidge smaller. So this is another marbleized, I don't know, kind of paint splashed pattern. And I'm strategically looking at the colors. So I want this one, and I'll save that other one to use on another notepad. Cutting that just a little smaller so it has a black border. And then I'm cutting my white cardstock at 2x2 and a matte with black. So do the same thing. And some shimmer trim at 3 1/4 inches. Okay, so we'll bring in some scratch paper and we'll do some stamping. And this time in Sundance. It's kind of tone on tone. I love this stamp set. I haven't had it that long, but I have used it a lot. It's just great to make these little backgrounds and just some little extra images on scrapbook pages and cards. So I'm going to basically do the same thing with the script and the splatters and the text stamps. And then we'll take that paint puddle stamp and stamp that in Sundance. And then over that we'll stamp in black the flower stamp. And then we'll skip ahead with the embossing, just a note. Okay, so we have that all done, and then I'll just round 2 in the corners on a diagonal And we'll layer everything up on the front of our notepad. So I'll make a list of all these supplies with links in the description below. And once you make one or two of these notepads, they're kind of addictive. You can make a whole bunch of them. So we have that all layered up, and then we'll add some shimmer brush and we'll call it done. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. You'll be able to find all of my videos. And I would really appreciate it. And there's that finished one. And then I made one in pinks, ballerina and flamingo, and then one in periwinkle. Love these color combinations. They're so pretty. So thanks for watching.